So as I'm sure everybody knows at this point is that the Ether storyline, the original storyline for COD Zombies, ended back in 2019 with the map Tag der Toten. Now, whether you like that ending or not doesn't really matter right now, but you know, it's the ending we got. But what I think would be fun is to look back at that story and more specifically look back at some storyline beats that they put there or even hints that they left there that went absolutely nowhere. Like, these are things that seem super important to the story, but by the end of the story, were never paid off in any imaginable way. Now this one's going to be a fun one for me because I spent a lot of time thinking about these, and yeah, it's fun to look back at them and see how they wasted my time paying attention to these small little story beats. So what better place to start than the one that has consumed me more than all the other ones, of course being the Giants radios. Oh my gosh, these things may be the most cryptic things you'll ever hear, but the sad part is they went absolutely nowhere. Whether it be the Maxis radios talking about some sort of things going on with the children, how they appear or disappear, they're gone for days, and like a bunch of crazy stuff like that. But then there's the main ones, the two main ones I want to talk about, the Dempsey and Nikolai radio. First off, with Dempsey's, we hear that the plan that they had went foobar. Now, what that plan was, I don't know. Regardless though, they're going for plan B, but this time around you have to keep an eye on Richtofen, and they are extremely suspicious of Richtofen. But now what we have to do is trigger the beacon so they can find our location, but don't get too close to it because it'll make your hair fall out. Which, that last part of its own led to a ton of speculation that went absolutely nowhere. But the main parts of this is, why are we lighting the beacon for these other versions of our characters? I thought we were doing the beacon thing to let Maxis know where we were so he could teleport us to where we needed to be. Like, what is going on here? What's happening here? I don't really know. And then this leads us to Nikolai's radio, where he says it's not all bad news. Nikolai, of course, talking to the version of himself. They may have failed in their mission, but at least there's one less Richtofen to deal with. And then he goes on to say that he's killed at least 3 Richtofens. There was one in the fire, one with the boat hook, and one, and gets interrupted and says, "No one told me. Sorry, forget everything I said. Everything will be fine." Now, where to start with this one? Let's start a little nice here. Let's see, you know, they failed in their mission, which is another thing that kind of went nowhere. That premise will fail, so that's that. But regardless, then there's the rest. Why are they killing Richtofens? What is going on here? What? They've killed 3 Richtofens now? What's going on here? Please explain this to me. Can't wait to find out in the future. Wait, they never explained it, and sadly, like the story of so many of these other radios in the Giants, they went absolutely nowhere. Now here's a smaller one. Let's talk about Gersh, because Gersh, after Ascension, actually made a reappearance, because after Ascension we actually freed him, but he was no longer his human form. He's like a little orb floating around from universe to universe and dimension to dimension. But regardless though, we do find him in Garage Croving. He's actually part of the Easter egg, and what happens is we start shooting at him during the Easter egg. When it's required, he says this.
Where am I? What is happening? It's collapsing. The confluence is occurring. Yuri! The children!
So the first part, I don't know what he's talking about, but the part that is really interesting is first he yells for Yuri, which is weird because Yuri's the one who made him end up this way. And then second, he yells, "The children." What? How does Gersh know about the children, and why is he worried about them? Like, what is going on with that? Like, I literally just said he was floating around just doing nothing. We literally hear about this in ciphers that he was floating around doing nothing. So how does he know about the children? Like, what is going on there? Now, if it wasn't for the Giants radios, these sets of radios would be the ones that hunt me more than all the other ones. And what they are the Revelations radios that are talking about Call of the Dead. And in these radios, we were introduced to a brand new character who had never been seen before or after these radios, who is Sally. And what she's doing is trying to investigate what happened to the Call of the Dead cast, because as we know of the events Call of Dead, they probably all died, right? So she's trying to figure out what happened to all of them. But in her research, she finds a book, and in this book she learns of rather Ultimus Primus, or maybe even both of them, talking about how crazy this story is. But then she continues to read this book and hears about Brock and Gary, Argartha, and all that crazy stuff. Now, for what this book is, I think the only hint anybody has at what it could be is the Chronorium. But after she finishes reading this, specifically the story about Brock and Gary, she is teleported into the jungle and meets up with Brock and Gary themselves. And just what was the point? Like, what was all this about? There's so much craziness. Who is Sally? Why does she have the Chronorium? How is her knowledge of reading the Chronorium even going to do anything? Like, that's a pretty significant thing. Like, why is she in Shangri-La trapped in the same place as Brock and Gary? Like, what is happening here? I am just so confused, and I wished we had an answer to all of this. Now, Zombies Chronicles, with all the maps got remastered, and they also added in a radio, Monty radio on all of them. And on the Ascension one, we actually got confirmation about something people had been wondering for a long time. In the first strike poster to Ascension, we saw some bald dude that no one knew who he was for years, but now it got confirmed that this was actually Gersh. But more than that, it got confirmed that this actually was a thing that happened. Gersh teamed up with Ultimus, Takio, Dempsey, and Nikolai. Of course, no Richtofen, because Richtofen was doing his own thing. Who knows what Ultimus Richtofen was doing, and more than that, who knows what the rest of Ultimus plus Gersh was doing. Like, at least we have theories for what Richtofen was doing during this, but we have no idea or what the significance of the rest of Ultimus working with Gersh could possibly been. So next thing we want to talk about is the Giant again, because the Giant has so much cryptic stuff, but is this that we found scattered around the Giant. Yes, the blueprint of the summoning key, then the Tesseract inside the summoning key, and inside the Tesseract, a KN-44. And we do know Monty drew this because we do know this from the bottom right, and then we also saw a loading screen or alternate loading screen that showed him making this. And I would like to go off on a whole thing trying to figure out any sort of hints or anything like I've been doing with all the other ones, but all I can really say about this is, what is this? Like, what? Oh, here's the one that everybody loves to talk about, and let's talk about it. The Mob of the Dead plane. Why do we see the Mob of the Dead plane flying over Shadows of Evil, Tetsubo no Shima, I'm sure another map, but especially the biggest one is, why is it parked on top of the Giant? I mean, oh my gosh, were we expecting something to come of this, right? Like, especially when Blood of the Dead came out, we were expecting to see maybe that's how the crew was going to escape Blood of the Dead. They were going to take the plane and they were going to fly over all these areas, and that was finally going to explain it, but then no, and we never got an answer for why this was the case. Maybe it was just a little, you know, not story related Easter egg this whole time, but I don't know, I doubt that. So let's talk about the alternate Die Rise loading screen. As you guys can see on screen, it's showing some stuff, you know, the world isn't broken, it's fixed and all that great stuff, which is great, but that's not what we're focused on. Instead, we're focused on what's happening on literally all the other pictures. First things first, why do we see Primus, Nikolai, Dempsey, and Takio with Ultimus Richtofen? What is going on there? Well, maybe, hey, people have some theories, like I mentioned earlier with that first strike poster. Maybe this is where Ultimus Richtofen went to go join the rest of them. Now, where Primus Richtofen is, I have no freaking idea. But even if we had an answer for all the Richtofen stuff, it doesn't matter, because the main question is, what? They were at the house? When? What? Why? When did this happen? Why did this happen? What was the plot? What is going on? It's just the questions we'll have. And the only continuation of what was going on here was just showing us this exact same image in the Chronorium, except it disappearing in the Alpha, Omega, or Togatoan intro, which I don't really know what to make of. So I didn't know if I should have included this one, because there's actually a chance this one actually might turn into something eventually, but as of now, we don't know if it is. And what it is actually the red phones on Classified, and this one specifically is from Samuel Stuhlinger, and he's trying to get hold of Richtofen, and he says that he's been out of his head for a long time now, and that he's trapped currently in a place that is dark and really filthy, and that the roaches are crawling with roaches. And then he says, shoot, am I even talking to the right Richtofen, or could it be the other one, or the other one? And then, of course, he just continues to finish it off. And As I've said, this could still play out in the Dark Ether story, because there's theories that he's in the Dark Ether, as we saw at the end of Tog the Toten, but we just don't know that, and we currently don't have any evidence that anything that isn't already in the Dark Ether storyline is going to come into from the previous Ether storyline to this one. But at this point, we don't know what this is, and we may never know what this is. And now to wrap it up with our final one, and the big one. I saved it for last because everyone brings this up. The Great War, Monty, the Shadow Man, whatever happened to them? I mean, we do know in reality what happened to them. Treyarch was forced to rush out all of their maps and they just couldn't finish everything on time. We get that, but oh my gosh, the Great War. How many times did we say, especially even at the end of the second to last map, Alpha Omega, Samantha's literally saying we're going to fight the Great War, also in the classified ending. So, like, what's going on there? And of course, we expected in that Great War, Monty the Shadow Man to be involved, but we did not get any of this. And this is probably the biggest one that everyone is familiar with, that a storyline beat that went absolutely nowhere.